Hey folks, Babbaginator here, back in Long Dark. We have survived the night. We're getting ready to head out. Go into Mystery Lake. We have our last 24 hours. That's right. But we did kill the deer, I think, is what we did last time. So, there's our deer.
Come on, little fire.
Are we still online? Uh-oh. It says it's offline. Why are we not connected? Okay, we seem to be back. That was weird. Yeah, good to see you, Roller. Stream crashed for some reason. Hopefully you're back, Roller. We're back online. Actually, I should check and see if YouTube is still online. Okay, we're still back online. Okay, good stuff.
I'm not sure I can carry much more.
Okay. I think we're back in. Hopefully you're back in as well, Roller.
I wonder if I can drop any of this gear.
Hey, Roller. Yeah, we're back. We had some minor technical issues. The stream suddenly just died really weirdly. Anyways, I had to reboot the stream. Seems to be working now. Ooh. So I ran the kickoff session for my brand new Thursday night D&D campaign, which was a big success. We had, it was a 0.5 session, so we kind of spent, one of the players is new and hadn't built his character yet when we arrived, and it was also an opportunity to kind of go over some basic ground rules for what we wanted. But mostly it was just, just get everyone finalized in terms of how they might be connected. Actually, I don't know if we even finished doing that. I think they're kind of thrust together now because of the circumstances. But anyways, they begin on a ship. On a ship that's been sailing for 6 months across a gigantic ocean, trying to get to this particular island continent that is their destination, this big city called Sanctuary. And they all have come with their own secrets and reasons for why they're leaving and trying to make it a new place. Some of them trying to run away from things, some of them running towards things. But anyways, they all have their sort of background stories and things that they're going to be involved with. That's all pretty normal. So what happens? What happens is they find themselves probably the least popular of the paid guests on this sailing ship. This is a long distance they carry passengers, but also passengers, crew, and then also cargo. And they make this. So anyways, let me see if I can give sort of the overview. So what happened in 0.5 sessions? So I decided, although the campaign will begin with a shipwreck, I wanted to cover what happened before the shipwreck, one of the events leading up to the shipwreck. And so we begin with them on the ship, in the mess hall, eating dinner and finding themselves all seated together because no one else really wants to sit next to them. And so they kind of introduce their characters, at least by appearance. And then what happens is, they start looking around the room, trying to assess what's going on. And they see that the captain has shown up and is having a very quiet but seemingly urgent or heated discussion with a couple of the crew, who then, leave out a different door, and the captain returns to the deck.
This much gear.
Things seem tense, and so they're paying attention to the captain. One of them goes and talks to the captain, trying to gather more information. It just gets kind of played off with some general sort of dismissal and assurance that everything's being looked after. They really shouldn't worry. There's a storm coming, but it shouldn't be too bad if it's a normal storm. Of course, it's not a normal storm. But, so there's a storm coming. And that's what Captain seems to be most concerned about in this moment. So there's that. There is a table of, we'll call them high rollers or high society folks. And they're the wealthy. Yes, they get a better quality food. And dishes that are brought out are nicer. And there's someone over there who is a professional gambler, possibly a con artist, who seems to be trying to get something started over at one of the tables in terms of gambling. And one of the party wants in on the action. Yeah, so there's a kind of odd selection of people. There's a lizard folk barbarian with no brains whatsoever, who is called Hunts for Gold. And then there's there's Hunts for Gold. There is let's really pull up the rest of the people in the party here. So who else is in the party? We have Hunts for Gold. We have a mysterious human wizard who goes by the name Victor Franklin, who most definitely is not a necromancer. Yes, assurances, yes. There's Savordia, who is a Goliath wizard. Bizarre, but we'll go with that. And then there's an Owlin Bard. Let's see, we also had a gnome. Let's see what was the current makeup here. A gnome cleric who wants to be a monk. These are all 3rd level starts. Yeah, I just realized I haven't updated this. Okay. Yeah, the Owlin Bard is in the College of Whispers and is really pretty much a con artist forger who is trying to pass themselves off as a fortune teller. Yeah, so anyways, you have this motley crew, which is basically all glass cannons. It's just going to be really interesting. The barbarian aside, they're all pretty much glass cannons. They're potentially powerful, but very fragile. None of them optimize in a particular way, which is going to be great. Will be great. There's a 6th person that's joining us this coming week, who wasn't able to make the first session. So anyways, you got this thing happening with the gambler and the high rollers, and Hunts for Gold decides that he wants to get gold, and the best way to get gold is to go up to wealthy people and tell them that they need to give him gold. So he goes over there, and the halfling gambler Chun tells him that he says, well, I'll pay you gold if you can prove to me that you're actually able to smell gold. And so proceeds to give him a challenge to see if he can, locate the gold. And then he creates a version of 3-card Monty where he pretends to take another passenger's golden amulet, puts it underneath one of these 3 wooden bowls, and then kind of shuffles them around, and then has people bet on which they can either bet on which bowl it's going to be under, or they can bet whether or not the lizard folk barbarian can locate the gold. And so of course, it being a con, the amulet turns out not to be under any of them. And the con artist is carefully phrase the question to Hunts for Gold. Is it under this one? No. Is it under this one? No. And then he says, it must be under this one then, right? Anyways, Hunts for Gold gets upset because he can tell there's no gold anywhere on the table. There's a disruption where he flips over the table, and then the gambler slides the missing amulet back into the chaos so that it looks like it was always on the table in the first place, so he doesn't get caught. Fight almost breaks out, except for someone steps in and diplomatically resolves it. And while this is happening, this big distraction is happening, there's another group at a different table who happen to witness. One of them rolls very high in their perception and witnesses a very bland looking traveling merchant lean over and pour something into a gnomish engineer's glass of wine while everyone else is distracted, and so realizes that this is going to be some sort of poisoning attempt and tries to save the day. The low-level merchant tries to fast talk himself out, and in the commotion caused by the gambling uproar, slips away. And one of the party chases after him and corners him, only to get stabbed. And I critted on the stab, so we almost lost our first character right away. Because it turned out it was a professional assassin, and there was both crit damage from the blade and from the sneak attack, and, well, crit damage from the blade, crit damage from the poison. I didn't throw in the sneak attack. That would have been absolutely lethal. And so the party member momentarily, doesn't go down, but is severely wounded, single digit wounded. And then he has a legendary action. So on someone else's turn, as the rest of the party comes rushing towards him, he puffs of smoke, vanishes, and escapes out of there. So the party splits up then. Part of them go and try to talk to the captain to tell him that there's been... first one group goes to talk to the captain. One group stays with the intended target and convinces him that he needs better protection. And so he agrees and says to come to his cabin where he can, where they can make a formal agreement, and he will tell them specifically what he's transporting and why he needs protection. But he says he doesn't want to do it in a crowded place like the mess hall. And of course, when they go to meet up with him in his cabin, he's already been stabbed. And they try to stabilize him, but realize too late that he's also been poisoned, and the poison is overwhelming whatever intervention they've made to try to save his life. So the poor guy dies, and the assassin has fled out a window before they get there. And so they go trying to track down the assassin, but they really can't see a way to follow him out. And there's another group that goes up to the deck to find the captain and report this murder. And when they're on the deck, one of them sees a dark figure signaling from the top of the deck on one of the sides, and then leaping off into the roiling sea, while the captain keeps urging them to go and take safety and shelter because the storm is almost upon them, and he thinks it's going to be a really bad one. When they look over to the side to see where the assassin fled to, they see beneath the surface of the waves some large creature turning and churning, and as it leaves, it creates this massive whirlpool that, combined with the oncoming storm, suddenly the ship finds itself under great tension, and before long is caught in this whirlpool that tears it apart in the face of the storm. Everyone gets tossed into the ocean, and they somehow make it through the night, wake up on the shore, unfamiliar. So there's that, all sorts of fun stuff happening there. I think this is going to be a great campaign. I am I've left a lot of clues, a lot of hooks for people. And so I think it's going to be quite interesting. The sixth person who hasn't joined the party yet, unbeknownst to me, without knowing what transpired in the session that he wasn't there, wrote up a character who is an apprentice to an assassin who ends up killing his master and is now traveling incognito, but scared that someone is going to find out about what he did. He's also trying to take on one last job, which is way off here in Sanctuary. And so the appearance of a second assassin on the same ship is going to be interesting. I think that's going to be fun. And he's playing a Kenku who's a cartographer, a rogue, but he's a cartographer by trade. What is the creature in the water? Well, I'm taking my inspiration from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It is no mere sea monster or kraken. It is actually some sort of an artifact vessel, sort of a magical mechanical vessel. And the assassin has some tie with the people on board that ship. So, the gnomish engineer was en route to deliver a prototype, he called it, or a larger device that he was supposed to make. But this was top secret, and in his dying breath, he tells them, not even his dying breath, his dying thought as he communicates telepathically to one of the party members, is that they should take his ring, his invisible ring. And sure enough, when they search him, they find that he indeed was wearing a ring. He was actually wearing two rings. One ring had already been stolen, presumably a visible ring. And the ring that was missed was invisible, and they find it. And it will, of course, have some sort of access to an interdimensional space where the prototype is stored. So that's what's going on with that. It'll be fun. Story time. What is up with this? This is not how you hang your posters. So we'll see how this all plays out. I think it will be pretty fun. They did not wash up in Sanctuary. They have washed up some distance away. I haven't even decided. I'll make that final decision before our session, whether they are even on the right island or if they're on an adjacent island. They're close, but not quite there. It is fun running these things. Versions of the same campaign start, but letting them go completely different directions. So, the last time I ran this particular campaign starts, the whirlpool is a magical vortex. And there is sort of a whole subplot about that's tied to basically these creatures from, Lovecraftian creatures have infiltrated the local worship of a particular god of the sea or goddess of the sea, and perverted that worship into and to worship for this particular. I think it's actually an aboleth, if I remember last time. Yeah, it was an aboleth. And so I'm not doing that one. I'm mixing it up. You are now in Great Bear. Yes, that would totally be appropriate. Yeah. So the party the players originally were torn between whether we wanted to start with this shipwreck. I basically told them there was one start that begins with you traveling on a ship bound for sanctuary that doesn't make it, and there's a wreck instead, or to start as former members of a circus troupe. So they're all circus. Ooh. Hey, welcome in, Bloody Cactus. We're just chatting a little bit about the D&D campaign that I just started on Thursday. So, but let's give you a shout out. I don't think you've been here before. Let's see what you've been playing. Long Dark.
Oh my gosh, Atim, you didn't need to do that.
And some classic games. I don't recognize this one.
Thank you very much. Didn't need to do that, you know.
Is this an emulator of like a classic arcade game? It looks kind of like in that vein. Anyways, so yeah, a little bit about me. I'm Oh, you're learning Long Dark on Saturdays, so you made it to day 3. Okay, well, welcome in. I've been playing Long Dark for quite some time, but I will say that we're always learning. We're always learning, and one of the things I like to do is I like to create like little challenges for myself. So my current challenge, which we're wrapping up, we're wrapping up a challenge where it's Interloper, and here I should give you a fall too. Where it's Interloper, but it's a custom Interloper where I use you can see this here if you want to play around with it. I created a custom run random settings generator. And so I use this to create runs where the settings are like in this case, somewhere between Interloper and beyond. It's at least as difficult as Interloper. Some settings may be harder and more unexpected. And then having run this many times in the past, I've saved all these different, I've taken the custom codes and save them out, and then randomly choose from that list of codes, and then we'll play that code without knowing what the settings are. So that's where we're at. And we have to survive for 50 days. So what we'll do is we're actually on our last day of this particular challenge. We just need to make it 50 days. And the thing we discovered so far, like as we play for the 50 days, we have to figure out what are the settings that we can determine so far. So far we know, for instance, that on this run, we have no rabbits and no ptarmigan. 0. They just don't exist in the world. We also have no birch bark tea, so no healing from birch bark tea. We do have high or very high winds and blizzards. They happen a lot. Wolves seem to be a little bit on the high side. I'm not positive, but I feel like it's going to turn out to be pretty high. We have seen bear, but not as often. But they do exist in the world. We have not seen a moose. We have not encountered the cougar. We have seen deer. And so we know that there are wolves, deer, and occasionally bear. What else do we know? We have discovered that there are no parasites on this run. which is fantastic. We've been able to eat bear, or we've been able to eat wolves without suffering any penalty, which is great. We also have a sense that like some of the plant spawns may actually be low, that we're just not seeing as many as we normally would. We saw that with the cattails when we were going up Bear Creek in Coastal Highway, which is usually like very dense with cattails, and we just had like maybe 20 or 30 of them instead of getting around 70, 80, or 100. So yeah, it was it's been an interesting challenge. The challenge we did before this one, we did a 50 days interloper run where we had to go completely matchless. We could not use matches to start fires. So we could only start fires with flares, fire striker, flares, fire striker, or maglens. That's it. And that took us about 11 tries before we were able to succeed on that. But that was a fun one. That was kind of hard. So, but yeah, happy to answer any questions you have about the game. I have about 700 hours, I think, in Stalker, and probably around 2,700 hours in Interloper. And then I've played my way through the Wintermute game so far, the episode so far. So I've caught up on that. So some things I'm pretty good at, some things I am not a good. Like, for instance, I will say I am still crappy at dealing with Timberwolves. I've also never hunted the cougar, although I did very creatively and successfully escape a cougar, which I think is worth something, right? Like, walked into the cougar territory, saw the cougar prowling, did a very, very high, like, skirted like the mountain or the hillside path instead of coming down into its actual like charging range. I just stayed where you could not get a charge in, and then got away that way. If we had been interested in hunting from that position, we could have done that, but we were on, that was matchless, so we like also did not have a torch available, I think, at that point. Somewhere around here. And that one's around 20 more. Okay.
This anymore.
No one needs money anymore. Sorry, Astrid. See, we can take matches on this run. We couldn't take matches on the last run. It was kind of heartbreaking to see matches and just leave them where they were. But sometimes that's what it is. Okay. I don't know. Do we want to... Can we craft anything? No, we don't have anything to craft. Have all our meat here. Yeah, I've been playing since late beta, so like I think I started February of 2017, so before the official release, but not as early as some of the people that started it, like when it was very early alpha. It sounds like trouble out there.
I'm not Not sure I can carry much more.
Yep, too windy for a torch out here. Okay, well, looks like we're gonna wrap up 50 here, or we could wrap up 50 in Winding River. That might be fun. We'll explore the rest of the dam and then get out. How much fuel do we have? We're still good. Okay, we'll just take what we have. We don't need to take the whole jerry can with us. We're gonna head on down. So, Owl, that's... Is Owl Voyager, or is that, can't remember if that's Voyager or is that Pilgrim. Yeah, fatigue, so things, the hardest part of like those earlier ones like Voyager, your challenge is abundance. Like, you very quickly discover there's loot everywhere, and you will get exhausted if you haul stuff everywhere. So there's a very different strategy that I tend to employ on those runs. You can safely make the assumption that anywhere you travel to will have enough food for you for a few days when you arrive, which means you don't need to carry a lot of food with you. And food can be very heavy. Things that you can do to make your life a little bit easier too is always prioritize eating the heaviest food first. So the heaviest food and most dangerous food would be like meat and fish, right? They're stinky. They're going to draw in creatures. If you're on a setting, especially if predators will hunt you if you smell like food. Then eat those things first, and then you eat your canned goods first. Voyager, I don't think you're going to get parasites or even food poisoning, I don't think. But even if you do, your recovery is pretty quick. So yeah, don't carry too much stuff. Eat your heaviest food first. The easiest way to transport food in, anything that's not interloper is in your belly. It's safer and better just to stay like absolutely full all the time. Just keep eating all your stuff because you're going to keep finding food. Especially if you're like just learning the game. You're not going to like if you have a run that goes over like 500 days, then you're like more concerned about like how do you keep yourself, especially if you're not doing any hunting. But yeah, usually like long runs are going to depend on hunting to feed yourself, as opposed to what they sometimes call old world food or old world supplies. Yeah. On Interloper, it's a different strategy. Food tends to be quite scarce, especially early in the game. And so, although there's likely to be a little bit of food, there's no guarantee that it'll be there. Likely, but not guaranteed that you'll find a little bit of food wherever you're traveling to. So what you tend to do is you tend to starve most of the day and then eat just before you sleep. Because the condition loss you take from starvation is minimal compared to the condition loss you take from from cold damage. Cold is the worst thing in the game. Cold is absolutely brutal. So, like I said, since this run is actually going to end really, really soon, we will not really worry about picking up extra supplies or crafting anything new. We're just going to take ourselves over into the winding river. Might hunt the last wolf in that region to wrap up our run. Yeah, if it's pretty late, then you should get some sleep. But yeah, there's all sorts of things that I've learned over the years. So there's also a YouTube channel too. I really should make some tutorial videos. I'm no Zach. Zach is the king of doing great tutorials. But there are a few things that I have figured out that I don't see covered. Like I have it's a mostly working means of pulling the perfect torch out of the fire. Anyways, I gave you a follow, and I'll check out your stuff too. So. Anyone else have questions about the game? Or about other stuff? I'm also very happy to talk about literature. I am a published author with 2 books of poetry, and I also teach creative writing. I work as a manuscript editor. And I recently I went back to school again, and did a master's in library and information science. So I am now a professional librarian, or at least qualified to work as a professional librarian. Currently I work kind of an adjacent field. I'm a digital project specialist, which basically means I am a gun for hire for faculty and graduate students at my university that do digital research and digital research methods. So they basically bring me on to help out with projects that require more advanced Python coding, or need someone to come up with a creative solution to bridge a gap between 2 different tools, or the output, convert data from one format to another format. It goes beyond sort of relatively easy approaches. So yeah, and my background is not just in writing and teaching, but also as used to be a computer games programmer at one point too. So I have a programming background as well. And as you may have heard when you're just coming in, I'm also a big D&D nerd. So I am a DM that used to run 2 games a week. I'm now down to 1 game a week, and I play in another one, because one of my players has become a DM, which is great. I am all for that. But I may start up a 3rd campaign in the near future. Let's see. I have some friends that are interested in a possible online campaign. let's not die from electrocution before. We're lucky you made it here before that. Whew. So we'll make it to the new day. Now we're going to need to get some more water going here. We're really here at the end of this challenge, so it doesn't really matter. We're just going to okay.
Walk with this much gear.
Gonna head out of here. We are officially on day 50, so we have completed our challenge. Yeah, it's gonna be all stormy and miserable out here. You could go over to the other side over there. See if there's a bedroll in here. No. Guess we're gonna go make it to the cave. Guess we should take one of these out. Okay. He's excited because we brought meat with us. It would be nicer if he stayed closer. Okay, come back. No, it's not going to work, is it? We'll have to use a longer lasting torch. Bad angle. Okay. Okay, now we got a good line. Ugh, too long. Okay, once he's on the ice here, I really have no excuse. If I start the shot too soon, he'll panic and leave. Oh, that works too. So he's like the only predator here, so we're good. Let's go find our cave.
I hate being cold. I really do.
So yeah, I think we'll find our cave and then we'll say, yay, we are done with this challenge. We killed our wolf and we are king of the winding river. And so the next step for us is basically we make our predictions as to what we think we know, and then we're going to save, create a custom run using the code that we started with, and see how close we were to figuring out what the settings were. Yeah, the no parasites thing was one of the surprises. I did not think that was going to be one of the settings. But it's entirely possible that in recent updates they have messed around with the order of some of my settings, and now my custom codes actually don't match even to what I originally thought they matched. So, this is really I know nothing, right? Okay, and so when we finish this one up, yeah, I think we'll finish up this, and then we might talk about what we're going to do next. Now, it has been suggested that we take on, we combine You Know Nothing with with our Roll With It challenge, and that might actually be, I mean, that would be really hard. Honestly, it would be really, really hard. But it might be what we need.
Come on, little fire.
Okay, yeah, out here without any beds or indoor-outdoor places, this is the only way that you can save, is by creating yourself a place where you can sleep or pass time. So we're going to use the fire to do that. I mean, we don't need to do this. Okay, we have officially made it to our 50 days. Let's see what we think we got here. So let's update this to reflect our 50 days. 50 days. Killed ourselves another wolf. Did we get to 10 wolves or only 9 wolves? We didn't go on a killing spree here, but yeah, 9 wolves. 2 deer. Should mark that down too. 2 deer, 9 wolves. And we survived a bear attack. Okay, so yeah, so let's call this done. Oh, challenge completed. Now to find out how we actually did. Okay, so for this we're going to exit out. Now that we've saved it, we will exit out. We will do a survival one. We will do a new one. And we'll see. We have the challenge here and the codes at the bottom. So we'll copy and paste that code. And we'll do custom. And then we will confirm that. And we will enter the code that we generated. And let's see. So it is interloper. So basically everything should be at least the level of interloper. There may be some surprises, but mostly the same. So baseline availability, that's interloper low, that's normal. Starting time, midnight. We did indeed start at midnight. It was pretty challenging. But we did find a place. Obviously we found a place. Okay, so weather variability very high. Okay, that was the impression I had. Weather changed a lot. Blizzard very high. I was dead right on that one. World gets colder over time. It was hard to gauge. It's only 50 days. Wind variability high. Also felt very true. Aurora frequency medium was not long enough for us to tell for certain. This stayed the same as interloper. Like, fire doesn't overcome ambient air temperatures. So like, even if you have a fire going, doesn't mean that you're going to be warm. That's standard interloper. We did not get endless night, obviously, because we had day-night cycles. All these were very high, except for frostbite. Okay, so this was very challenging. But condition recovery was very high, which was very good for us. So we bounced back from things. At rest was good. So we also recovered very quickly from that. But this one is how long it takes to recover from hypothermia. So yeah. The mix of good and bad in there. Intestinal parasites was off. Weird. Don't know how that happened. So let's see. Everything else was as expected. Scurvy, we never run into problems with scurvy. I think it's because we have a nice balanced diet. Astrid always takes care of herself. Birch bark tea was off. Item decay rate high. Yeah, noticed that. I was always repairing things. Loose item availability. We suspected this, and that was indeed the case. So that's basically finding stuff outside of containers. Seemed higher than normal. But there was also a high chance of an empty container. That also felt true. Low stick branch and stone respawn frequency. So that was kind of true. It sometimes felt like a challenge to find enough sticks. These things were all as expected. Harvestable plant availability low. That was what we thought, and that's what we got. Reduce container item density high. So that means like if you do find stuff in containers, it's going to be maybe one thing. Cougar spawn chance. So there was no cougar in the game. Explains why we never heard any growling. I thought we had a higher wolf chance, but it was medium. We were very lucky with timberwolves. We did not run into them, even though there's a very high timberwolf chance. Very lucky. Deer spawn very high. Rabbits, none. Bear, low. So we were lucky that we saw bear. No moose. Okay, it wasn't our imagination. Time to wildlife respawn, very high. So, like, we had to wait a long time for things to come back. Reduce wildlife over time, high. Yeah. Wolves can spawn in close. Yeah. No predator grace period. Okay. Wildlife smelt us at a distance. Yep. No passive wildlife. Everything's skittish. Yeah. That's terrifying. Chance that wolves will flee during encounter, including using flares, torches, or stones to deter them. They had no fear. Wow. We got lucky. Very lucky. Wow. So if we had run into timber wolves, it would have been super bad news too. Wow. And wildlife can detect us at a far range. That's scary. Okay. Wow. So if we had been in a fight, it would have been bad. Wow. We are so lucky we didn't have 8 wolf struggles. This was a pretty, it wasn't like an yeah, it's wolf attacks would have been lethal in this, and we got lucky and did not have to. We either avoided them or we were able to kill them. So. Okay. So what should we do next? Well, to be honest, I'm not certain if it makes sense to start something new. We could run for maybe another half an hour. If you want to see how I start, and you could, those of you who came in with Bloody Cactus, it might be interesting just to do a generic interloper start and just see like kind of the basic strategy for how to get started in a run. So I think maybe we'll do a little bit of that. And so this is kind of a throwaway run, but I'll just show you like what is my strategy for getting started in a brand new run. So if you have these, if you've earned them, Efficient Machine and Cold Fusion are my favorite interloper perks to take, feats to take. Efficient Machine lets you consume a little bit less, you survive with less calories, which on interloper is a big deal because it's expensive to keep yourself, fed. And then you also have a permanent +2 degree bonus to air temperature. This does not seem like much at the lower levels, but at interloper, when you're struggling to find gear at the beginning, this extra 2 points might allow you to sleep indoors in a place where you don't have enough clothes. It sucks to actually die because you tried to sleep indoors and forgot to check if you were going to be warm enough. So yeah, so we'll spend a little bit. We'll leave the cougar on. We'll leave the scurvy on. We're not going to bother with this. We're not going to go anywhere with the trader. So, and just we're going to demo interloper here just to show you kind of how we get started. So, and this is really just for anyone that's interested in how we get started on these runs. So this looks like we're in Forlorn Muskeg, and at first you might say, hey, this is pretty nice. We're in morning, and we've got a nice open space here. Now the visibility is good, so we can kind of see where the rail line is over on this side. And the biggest challenge here is that we need to get someplace where we can get matches and where we can get shelter. So let's see what's our closest way out of here. So right now, because we own nothing, We are really, like, if you've never seen an interloper start, you have no gear whatsoever. You have, like, just the bare minimum. Something to cover your top, pants, long johns, socks, shoes, and these can be in pretty rough shape, right? Some of them are new. This is our grand total of all our possessions right now. So, we have a limited window in which we can, before the weather changes. So we're gonna go this way. And we're grabbing cattails just because they are lightweight. The stalks are food, and the heads can be used for tinder or for kindling, get fire started. It's just an easy way to gather stuff. There are a ton of cattails in this region. You could actually live off of them for quite some time. We're also very quickly going to grab a couple stones because we need a weapon. Yeah. The things we don't know right now is we are not certain where the wolves are and where the bear is. So our best bet right now in order to get a torch and get going is probably to get to the poachers. Yep, sounds like we made some. Get to poachers camp over here. Let's see. You can see we've already been out too long. Okay, we have enough food and enough kindling to get us by for a little bit. Now's the time to get us... Okay, the most dangerous part about traveling through this region is that the ice is thin in a number of places. And if you fall through the ice, you're going to get cold quickly and probably hypothermia in no time. And then die. You don't want that. Also, since we have nothing covering our hands and our head, we are at risk of getting frostbite, which is permanent damage. We don't want that either. Okay. So coming here is usually the right move, but there's also a bear that moves through this region, so want to be careful we don't come across the bear. And there's our flare. Started. Some coal. Okay, so we've got something to cover our head. So we don't start with water either, so that's a problem. We only have a can, so we can only make a little tiny bit of water at a time. But our main goal here is to get torches. We want to do this as... Oh no. Sometimes you get these weird artifacts where things go through. Okay, so we got two goals here. One is to get a little bit of water going. Two is to get some torches. Three is to ourselves warm. Yeah, it's going out. See if we can get out of here quickly. So we're going to make a run for Mystery Lake. The weather is good. The bear is visible. We know where the bear is over there. As long as we don't get too close, we'll be fine. We're going to duck down on the side just so that we're not easy to smell. Yep, I guess we're a little too close. Okay, lost interest already. So I learned a trick recently, after all this time, I finally learned something new. And that's basically if you do find yourself early in the game without a gun or a weapon to defend yourself, run into a bear. You can, if you have a fire, grab a torch from the fire, wait for the bear to come close, and then throw the torch so it bonks him on the nose, and he will turn and run away. So, gotta get good at throwing those torches. But we did that in a couple runs, and recent runs, and that was good trick to make up for, to avoid what would have been an obviously bad ending. Of course, if you panic and you grab the wrong thing and forget to throw the torch, then it all goes out the window. And we did mess up on our, the challenge run we just finished actually did have a bear attack in which we, despite having the means of defending ourselves, we panicked and hit the wrong button and then got mauled. Okay, so the question is, do we go to Trappers? Or do we go to Camp Office? Trappers might have a hammer. Okay, so yeah, we're just going to run over here. So why do I pick Trappers over going to the Camp Office? Even though the Camp Office is a better starting location. There's a couple reasons. One, usually there's only one wolf in this area, like in this little stretch here, and so if you can get through without running into the wolf, then it's pretty much a clear shot through to the whatchamacallit, to the hunters, not the hunting lodge, the trappers cabin. But number 2 is that it's close to a cave that goes into Mystery Lake. And the cave has coal in it. And early in the game, getting access to coal can make a huge difference in how you survive being trapped inside open caves or outdoors if you need to build a fire to cook something. Just having that access means you might live a little bit longer. You might survive a blizzard. So yeah. Coal to me.
Cold. My life.
Anyways, we're just gonna run here. We're hugging the wall here partly because there's always a chance that there is a bear or a moose down here. At least there used to be a bear that spawned in here. And so if you try to cut through there, you might run into a bear by mistake. So we're not doing that. So we're not going to go all the way through, but we are going to step in here briefly to grab some coal. There's usually no coal in here, but I think on lower levels you sometimes get coal in there. This chamber always has coal, and this is pretty much where you need to get it. And we could keep going through to Mystery Lake, go through the I call it climb down. It's the little region in between Mountain Town and Mystery Lake. Okay. We got a little bit of coal. Got some sticks. Got some sticks. And we're just gonna make it here. This makes it look like interlopers. Where's our rabbits? We don't even have rabbits right now.
Too cold to think.
Okay, we don't have a pry bar, so if anything's locked, we're out of luck. Yeah. That's not what we want. I always grab books early in the game because they're the fastest way to start a fire, which feels heretical because I'm a librarian and a writer, but okay.
Perfect.
Now there used to be a pot that would show up here, but that's not here anymore. exit and re-enter. Save. Okay, so there we are. That's our less than a day of interloper survival. A quick sort of demonstration of how to get started. Yeah, so what we're going to do to wrap up is we're going to do our customary thing, which is we'll read a poem, and then we'll head on out. So let's read something. What shall we read as our final poem for tonight? Should we just roll for it? It's too complicated. Yeah, we haven't read that in a while. We'll read Approaching Infinity. Wow, it's so many sad poems. But hey. Actually, we did this one not too long ago. I feel like we've done a lot of these not too long ago. Okay, we'll do Vigil. Vigil. Tonight the moon lies down in a room darkened by boxes. The moth at the clear window battles the dimming arc of light. Someone weighs a wooden heart at a table, splintered and raw, burning like a knot in the fire, wondering what sound it will make. Who has laid the matches in the tinder? Who has laid the smoke in the ground? Tell me something I have forgotten, now that the ice has dug itself deep into the soil, now that everywhere I see and hear what soon will disappear, the lost horse stranded at the side of a barren field, the car engine turning until its voice is gone. So, so this poem, Vigil, was written after my father had passed away from Lou Gehrig's disease, from ALS, and I was staying with my mother at the time, just like in the weeks afterwards, and it was April turning into May. But I kept on thinking about sort of a lot of the winter imagery because I'd spent a long time, in the months beforehand, traveling back and forth from where I was living, which was 5.5 hours away from where they were living. And I would always be driving through the mountains in BC and thinking about the cold and the winter that was in the mountains. But it also reminded me of just winters in general. And those images there at the end, the horse at the side of a barren field, you see that horse, you don't know where it's going to disappear, but it's going to run off somewhere. And the car engine turning and turning. If you've ever heard like a car die in the wintertime and someone's trying to get it started again, that is kind of like the heart, kind of like the person in grief trying to get started again, but the voice goes eventually. So that came out of that time period. So yeah, that's Vigil. That will probably be in my third collection whenever I get around to finishing it. So thanks for hanging out with us. If you like poetry and want to read more, you can check out my author website there. And otherwise, we're going to find someone to go raid, and we'll head on over there. So let's get that set up here. We're looking to see who is up tonight that we could go visit. Lots of people I don't know. Let's see. Let's replay the Long Dark. Kiki Kalin. Oh, they're doing the story mode. Let's see if we can find one that's doing. Cheeky Peeky. Signal Void. Okay, let's try PETA then. PETA is doing note mode, which is even harder than Interloper. So, but anyways, a good person to watch and see how they play the game too. So we'll get this raid going, and thank you all for hanging out. We'll be back again. Let's see, tonight's Saturday. We will probably be back then on Tuesday night. Okay, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the other side of the raid.